take a business trip to Dubai and have a business meeting and it's a tax write-off. And a lot of people are in this mindset like, okay, if I start a business, if I go out the country or if I go, rack up a bunch of expenses, like all of it is a write-off, but not actually like knowing how to categorize those things. But then also like not also realizing that in order for you to be able to do that, like you have to have a certain amount of income to come in.
Welcome to the Side-HustlHER Podcast, the podcast for women building their dreams while balancing work, family, and all the things. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, a wife, mom, marketer, and your side hustling friend here to teach you how to grow a brand that works for you and not the other way around. Whether you're a side hustling pro or just starting out, this is your safe place for real talk, actionable strategies, and the encouragement you need to keep going. We're here to help you make progress and not perfection. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's build your dream one step at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Side-HustlHER Podcast. I am your host, Carly, and I'm so excited today because I have an amazing guest who is not only a powerhouse in her industry, but also an example of how to balance entrepreneurship, family, and life with grace. Joining me today is Takara Broussard. She is a tax advisor, licensed real estate agent, and founder of KAJN Tax Services. With over a decade of helping individuals and small business owners reduce their tax liabilities, Takara is a go-to expert for navigating the often overwhelming world of taxes. She specializes in working with top-producing real estate agents, brokers, and small business owners across the country, providing smart tax planning and year-round support to reduce financial stress. Takara is originally from Louisiana, but now calls Houston her home. And outside of work, she's a wife, mom, and entrepreneur who loves cooking, traveling, diving into a good book, and of course, watching football. She's passionate about helping others build successful, compliant businesses while making space to enjoy life to the fullest. I'm so excited for this conversation because Takara will be sharing practical tax tips and insights for entrepreneurs just in time for tax season. So grab your notebook and let's dive in.
Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to tell you about a free resource I created just for you. Have you ever found yourself stuck on what to post or struggling to stay consistent on social media? I've been there, and that's exactly why I created this free guide called 30 Days of Done-For-You Social Media Prompts for Personal Brands. This guide is loaded with prompts to get your gears turning so you can have a gallery of content to create for your brand and never stress about what to post again. And you can grab it right now at cdcreativecoagency.com/content and start creating content that connects without the stress.
Hello, good morning, Takara, and welcome to the Side-HustlHER Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here because I know that there are a lot of side hustlers that are struggling with making sure that they're operating their businesses properly, because we know that even though you decide to start a side hustle, you still have to make sure that you are logistically running your business properly, especially when you're thinking about the top of the year, like right now, where everyone's getting ready for tax season. And so I know, like, even for myself, when I was first starting off, like, I had no idea how to even like track my expenses or like what expenses I could track being a content creator and an influencer. So I thought that this would be an amazing opportunity to bring you on just so we can have some discussion about how to prepare and get ourselves together to make sure that we're taking advantage of all of these deductions and then also making sure that we are managing our expenses well. So I guess my first question would be, how did you become a tax advisor or tax professional? I know you're a mom, you also do real estate. And so how did you even decide to start your tax business?
Well, first, I started off like a lot of people doing their own, like on TurboTax and that type of stuff. And then I started doing like my family's, like theirs. And then once I got into it, I ended up becoming a real estate agent. And once I started talking to some of them, like I realized that it was a lot of stuff that we didn't know about taxes and stuff. And the more and more I dug into it, it's like I got intrigued. Like I started going into like a rabbit hole of stuff. And there's so much stuff that people leave on the table or we just don't know. Like, and if you don't know, you don't know. And the same year I became a real estate agent, I opened my firm, and that's how I ended up becoming, like, my niche right now is real estate agents and brokers. But I do a lot of small businesses and individuals as well, but that's pretty much how I got into it. Just started off small, doing my own, and then just looking into so much stuff that we miss and we just don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's eye opening how much, like, the average person overpay just because they don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, when you were talking about TurboTax, because I think that that's one thing that a lot of people think, like, I can just go in and do my stuff. But I always get so, like, I feel like I am so hesitant to ever do something like that. Like, I would always rather hire someone to do my taxes. But, like, when you have people that are doing their taxes on their own on TurboTax, like, what is one of the common mistakes that you see people make when they try to do it themselves?
The thing is, sometimes it is okay to go on those type of things, but what people don't realize, like, AI and stuff is a big thing right now, but all of those type of platforms are AI. So if you answer it wrong, it can affect everything else. The only time people realize that something is off is if their refund is not as big as they're expecting it. So then they start looking into it, but then sometimes it is what it is. Like, tax laws change all the time, and you just have to just be with a professional that knows and stays on top of all of those things. The TurboTax and stuff sometimes is not bad. It's just you have to know what you're doing and what to look for.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember when I was in college, I feel like tax returns are like, or tax season was like one of the things that everybody was always looking forward to. Like, it's tax season, it's tax season. But then as I started working my job, as I started, like, having my business, like, I started dreading tax season because
and that's a lot of people.
I have to pay tax.
That's how it usually is. And growing up, like, people don't tell you that. Like, if the refund, like, it's a refund mindset, like me and my colleagues call it. And it's like, once you start making money and stuff, it's like, it's not that you want to pay taxes, but if you're getting a refund, that's an indication that you didn't make enough. That's how some people look at it too.
Yeah.
So it's just like, once you start making a certain amount of money, like, you start expecting to pay taxes.
Yes.
And you just got to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's one of the things everybody's, like, looking forward to. Like, oh, I'm going to get a refund. But I'm like, if you're getting a refund, that basically means that you overpaid IRS, and they are giving you your money back that you should have had throughout the year.
Yep, you gave them a loan.
Yeah.
And they're giving it back to you.
Yeah. But then also, like, I think even from a perspective, because, like, the first time that I had to pay taxes, I want to say this was about, like, 3 years ago. And I was just completely shook because I had always, been so accustomed, like, oh, I'm going to get a refund. But then I had to pay. I'm like, wait, how is that? Like, how is that possible if y'all are taking money out throughout my checks and if I'm putting money aside? So I think that it's just something that a lot of people don't really realize. But also, I think that the goal should not be to get a refund.
Right.
In sense. The goal should be to pay taxes, but also have a lesser tax bill.
Right. To pay your amount, don't overpay tax.
Yeah. So what are some of the most, like, overlooked deductions that, like, business owners typically are not aware of, or something that they typically always forget?
One big one is, like, the home office deduction. So if you have a space that you use exclusively for business, and it doesn't have to be a physical office in your home, or it could be like a dining room or a spare bedroom. And there's two ways to apply the home office deduction. It could be like a simplified method. You basically take the square footage of that space, and then it's like $5 times that square footage, and then you get that amount of the deduction. Or the other way, you actually take the actual expenses. So your mortgage interest, your rent, your utilities. Yeah, you'll get the portion. So it's whatever the square footage of that office space.
Oh, wow. I did not know about them works. Wow. And then I also know about, like, your home internet. Can you do utilities?
Utilities?
Okay.
A lot of people use the simplified method because it's less paperwork, less documentation of it. But the actual expenses method, you just calculate the percentage of your home office, and you can take all of that, utilities, internet, all of that. And I have a list of things that you can take a look at.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. So I guess another thing that I want to talk about is the difference between a business expense and a personal expense. Because I know that a couple weeks ago, I think I had shared on my stories about how it was this guy that was online talking about take a business trip to Dubai and have a business meeting and it's a tax write-off. And a lot of people are in this mindset like, okay, if I start a business, if I go out the country or if I go, rack up a bunch of expenses, like all of it is a write-off, but not actually like knowing how to categorize those things. But then also like not also realizing that in order for you to be able to do that, like you have to have a certain amount of income to come in, because you don't want to keep racking up a bunch of expenses to where now your profitability of your business is not profitable, but you have all the expenses but no money coming in. So I guess what I want to talk about is like, what is the difference between a business expense and a personal expense?
We can go down a rabbit hole on this, but like these, like one of the biggest mistakes a lot of business owners and stuff make is like they get information, but they're not doing their due diligence, right? So these people who are telling you to do stuff, like they're giving you like a small excerpt of it, and they're not telling you everything that needs to be done in order to make that happen. So if you get this information, then you need to do your own research to see how does this apply to you, to your business, and to your situation, because everybody is not the same. As far as the business trips and stuff, it can be done like that way, but the thing with business expenses, it has to be ordinary and necessary in order for it to even be included as an expense. So if you're taking a trip to Dubai and you're just saying that you're going with your business partner or with one of your clients and you're writing up the whole trip, that's not how it goes. That's not how it works. Why are you taking this trip? The business trip you're taking has to make sense to your business for it order to work. Now, there's business conferences, all of that type of like trainings, like that makes sense. You go to that, and then if you extend it a couple of days, that there's ways where you can write it off where everything that you did on that trip can, but it has to make sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And I think also when you think about business expenses, because I think that was one of the things that I made, or one of the mistakes that I made. It was like, I was just racking up a bunch of like expenses and trying to find a way to like write it off. Like, oh, I'm going to go buy some clothes or something, and I'm going to use this for like my shoots or something. And then that can write off. But then I also think it's important for people to understand, like I was saying before, you can have all of these expenses, but then at the end of the day, if your business is not profitable, like it raises a red flag to the IRS. And they only give you like a certain window of time for you to actually have a profitable business. Like you can't have a non-profitable business for consecutive years, because then isn't that when they deem your business as a hobby?
Yes.
Or you end up getting like, do you end up getting audited, or how does that work?
Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt really good about the content you're putting out? Are you tired of scrambling to post, feeling like you're never ahead, or just unsure on how to show up online consistently? Now, if you're nodding your head, I want you to listen up, because my content intensive package was made just for you. Here's the deal. In just one day, we'll create 1 to 2 months worth of high quality, impactful content that will have your brand showing up consistently and professionally. This isn't just some cute little photo shoot. No, ma'am. This is a full-blown, done-for-you content experience that includes everything you need to elevate your brand and connect with your audience. Oh, and did I mention this is an all-inclusive experience? Because yes, girl, we're getting it all done in one go. Whether you're launching something new, building a personal brand, or scaling your business, this package is everything you need to show up online without the stress. And I want to help you do it. So let's talk about it. Head over to cdcreativecoagency.com/contact to book your free discovery call. I want to learn everything about you, your brand, your goals, and how we can make this happen for you. You don't need to keep struggling to figure out what to post. Let's get your content done in one day so you can focus on growing your business. Now let's get back to the show.
Word. The thing with the hobby and business is it has to have an intention of making a profit. So if you have 3 out of 5 years, so in a 5-year window, 3 of those years you keep taking a loss, then they can deem it as a hobby. The thing with a hobby is you still have to report the income, but you can't take any of the expenses. So if out of those 5 years, if they see that you have more than the allotted amount, they can penalize you for it, and they can make you repay everything that you took as a deduction. So yeah, but that's another big mistake that a lot of people make is they go and they just try to write everything off. That can lead to so many things. Like if you try to get funding for like a house, I put on my real estate agent hat, but if you try to go get funding for like a house, once you deduct everything, the amount that they're gonna give you as your income is after all of those deductions. And is a lot of people fall into that, even with like business funding. If you try to get capital for your business, there are stipulations where some things can be added back, but if it's just all deductions and expenses, they're going off of that amount after the deductions.
Wow. I definitely did not know that.
Yeah.
And that's good to know. Really good to know. So I want to talk about how should people keep track of their expenses, because I know that at the beginning, we just think that, okay, if I keep all of my receipts, maybe I could just have all of my receipts and take them to my tax professional at the beginning of the year. Some people are like spreadsheets. Some people like myself, I use QuickBooks. So what would you say, like when you're starting off your side hustle or starting off building your business, what would be the best efficient way to keep track of your expenses?
A lot of people with startup expenses, it isn't that much. So a spreadsheet can work, but eventually you want to get into some software. So like QuickBooks is a good one. There's even some that's specific for your industry. I know a lot of real estate agents use like Everland. They track mileage, all of that stuff within it. QuickBooks started doing mileage as well. Yeah, so it's a lot of good ones where it's really easy. If you spend your money on something, you take a picture of the receipt and you just classify it as a business or personal expense, and it separates it for you. A really good first step whenever you're starting a business is getting a separate business account. That's like one big mistake that a lot of people use when they start a business is they commingle their funds. If you don't listen to anything else, do not commingle. A lot of people get an LLC when they first start, right? And the reason for the LLC is to protect your personal asset, right? So that means if you get sued, and I'm not a lawyer, speak to a lawyer, but if you do get sued, that means that they can't touch any of your personal information. It's only on your business stuff. Now, if you start commingling funds, that is voided.
Yeah.
So that means the IRS can go in whichever accounts that you commingling, they can start auditing all of this stuff. So if you have multiple businesses, and I get it. Like when you're starting, you just need the money to do certain things. So you take it out of one account and you do it, but you have to do it correctly.
Yeah.
And that's where speaking to a financial advisor or someone helps you. And just speaking to them a couple of times a year just to make sure that you're straight and you're doing things correctly is the best way to do it.
Yeah. No, that's so good. So good, because I feel like that's one of the things that when I first started my business, my mom was always telling me, like, make sure you get a business checking account. Even if it's not a business account, if you just have a separate personal account, a separate savings account where you keep all of your money for your business. Now, granted, like when I started my business, I just thought I needed to get an LLC, but I didn't really necessarily understand
Yeah.
what I was doing. Okay.
Yeah.
I just knew like, okay, people say when you start a business, you get an LLC, you pay your fee to the Secretary of State, and then boom, you get this certification, this certificate that says, whatever LLC, and you're official. But it's like, no, like this is actually the reason why you do this. It's because you are separating your assets, your personal assets from your business assets.
Right.
Meaning if something happens, you have a house, you have a paid off car, you have a trust, you have, all of those things that are attached to you personally. If somebody tries to go after your business, they can't touch and take away those things.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then also, I think what is confusing is I think when people talk about like the difference between like an LLC and a sole proprietorship, because I know that isn't it the way that those two are taxed are differently?
Sole proprietor and LLC, if you're a single member LLC, you're gonna still be taxed as a sole proprietor.
Got it.
Yeah. So the LLC is essentially just to protect those assets.
Okay.
If you're a multi-member LLC, then you'll be taxing as a partnership. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about like if you have a DBA? Isn't that still like a sole proprietorship type of situation?
You're just doing business under that DBA.
Okay. But so as far as like somebody that is starting off, like if they're able to start a business, they don't necessarily have to get an LLC from the beginning unless they're trying to protect their assets.
Right.
So if someone is coming to you and they're like, Takara, I just started a business. Like, what would be your way of trying to guide them to prepare themselves to make sure that they're taken care of as far as their taxes go? Like someone first starting off, would you recommend that they go get an LLC, or would you recommend them starting off as like a sole proprietor and then working up to get an LLC?
They would have to speak to a lawyer. LLC is an actual contract with your state. So you have to speak to a lawyer to make sure that that's what you need. I can explain the tax benefits of each one, but most people, when they're first starting out, if it's like they don't have any other businesses, they don't have anything else, they can start as a sole proprietor.
Okay.
But once you start buying houses, once you start opening second businesses, you start having kids, like it makes sense to do it. And a lot of people just go ahead and get it done because it's not that expensive to go ahead and file it, and you have that protection. A mistake that people make is they go ahead and do that LLC when they first start and they don't keep it active. So it's pointless. Most states is like yearly. I know some last for 2 years. But that's another thing that a lot of people don't even realize. They think once they do the LLC, it's done. But you have to keep it active with your Secretary of State.
Yeah, that is true. I wanted to ask you about people that are operating their businesses using like Cash App, Zelle, and thinking that that is a way that they won't have to like report that money to the IRS. So say for instance, like if I have a friend that is operating her business and she's like, oh, whenever you say for instance, she's a photographer, and anytime she takes pictures, she's like, okay, yeah, just send it to me on Cash App. Like, what would you say to her about how she's managing her funds? Because I think a lot of people think that if they are using Cash App, using Zelle, I mean, it goes back to the personal versus business accounts. But many people actually think that if you operate your business out of Cash App and Zelle, then that's a way of you hiding how much money you actually make from the IRS.
It's not. Any income that you have and you're getting it as with the sole purpose of making a profit is considered business income. You're supposed to report it. And the same way that people feel like they don't have income, they use their Cash Apps as their sources for their income. So it can be used as the source. Actually, if you set your Cash App and PayPal and Stripe and all of that as a business account, there's new rulings, like the new laws that's coming out for this year. They're gonna have to start sending you a 1099-K. So you're gonna have to report it because that means that they're reporting it to the IRS. So that's gonna be another form that you're gonna have to file with your tax return. Yeah, it's always been, but the amounts has been changing. And like during a couple of years ago, they had wanted it to be a certain amount for this year, and it was pushed back. So they're trying to do it where they gradually making it, but it's going to eventually, like I think it's 2026, anything over $600, I think is the amount that they're going to have to start reporting it. Right now it's a little bit more, and then next year is going to phase out down some more, but 2026 is going to be $600.
Gotcha. And I think isn't that standard for like, because I know like whenever I have like brand partnerships with like brands and they do paid partnerships, anytime the amount is over $600, they send you a form to take to your tax professional.
Well, yeah, that's different though. That's a contractor. So you get the 1099 NEC. For any time someone pays you over $600, or if you pay someone over $600, you have to issue them out a 1099 NEC.
Oh,
yeah, and that's due by, you have to report that to the IRS by January 31st, and give it to that contractor by the 31st.
Oh, I had no idea. I paid a couple of contractors more than $600 last year.
Yeah, it's like contractors for your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to issue them at 1099. So if it's over $600, you have to issue that to them. And it's easy. It's a simple process. And I can give you some more information on it. There's platforms that you can go ahead and file it, or you can just get with a tax advisor and they do it. And it takes a couple hours to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and that's something that you don't know. I mean, you know, when you start a business, there's lots of things that you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
This last year was the first time that I actually hired a couple of contractors to help me. Like I have a team of photographers, I have videographers, editors. So mostly those types of people that I hire for services throughout the year. But obviously, like before, a couple years before, it was just me. But now, I mean, this is new. This is really live in action.
Well,
there's something else that I have to do as a business owner.
Yeah, and what it is those people can use that as income, and then you can write it off as an expense because you paid that.
Yeah, I normally do, like, whenever I do pay them, like, I write it off as an expense in my QuickBooks, but I didn't know that there was an actual, like, form that I have to send to them for them to be, okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, like, content creators. So, as a content creator, because I know that there are a lot of people that, like, you have, like, fashion influencers, you have beauty influencers, even, like, food influencers, and a lot of them, throughout the year, they rack up expenses, whether that's on clothes, shoes, makeup, hair, nails, all of those things. But I think that what my question is that will the IRS be able to see those expenses as necessary business expenses, or is it more so in the category of, like, you know, that's your hobby and you're just racking up leisurely these expenses?
Well, like I said before, if your intention is to make a profit, then you can prove that it's a business. You have to be doing business activities consistently, and you have to show, like, if you start getting a separate business account, all this other stuff. Clothes is a big issue because a lot of people just will buy clothes and then they say that it's an expense. The thing with clothes is the rule in the IRS, if you can wear it outside of work, then it's not an expense. A way that a lot of people get around it is they put their logo on it. But I know for, like, content creators, there's been instances where people go to audit and they speak with the IRS and they have passed the audit, but that may be like a content creator situation. Most business owners that just buying a uniform, wardrobe for like a photo shoot, that doesn't count. That won't pass an audit.
Yeah, that's good.
But for content creators, and they have to buy certain things for the content and all of that stuff, you have to just make sure you have documentation to substantiate what you're saying, and that's all what IRS audits. You just have to have the documentation.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I also wanted to hit on, like, mileage and, like, how to be able to track mileage if you don't have one of the systems that track the mileage, but then also, like, what mileage can be tracked.
anything for business related activities. So commuting miles it's not acceptable for business mileage. So once you set your business office or your business location, anything beyond that, you can count as business mileage.
So
Commuting,
you're talking about like commuting from home to your office?
right. But if your main office is your home office, then that's your starting point.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so say for instance, like if I have an office that is like at a different location and I go there 5 days a week, then I wouldn't be able to track those miles as a business trip.
No.
Okay. That's good to know. What if I am going to my mailbox and I only go there like, like a couple days out of the month?
I mean, everything is relative. Like I said, if you have documentation, how far is your mailbox from your office though? Like, is it a difference?
My mailbox is probably like 7 miles.
Oh yeah, I
crazy.
mean, yeah, I get it because I live from my office. I live 25 miles from my office, right? So, but my starting point is my home office. I do everything from my home office.
Yeah.
So that when I'm going to my office to meet clients, or that counts. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends. So like you said, like your mailbox, like you can use that. Like once you reach your office space, and then everything beyond that.
As far as like personal taxes and business taxes, someone like me, I have a full-time job and then I also have my business. Do you typically file those taxes together? Do you file them separately? How does that work?
Most people, if you have an LLC, you file it with your personal taxes. The only way that you file a separate tax return is if you have an S corp, a partnership, a corporation, or like a nonprofit.
Okay.
But if you have a LLC, it's gonna go onto a Schedule C. So that means that's where you put all your expenses and all of your other stuff, and then you file that with your personal tax return.
Got it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm all over the place. So like when I started my business, I had like cousins and people that were entrepreneurs and, they was probably not operating their business correctly. And so I'm just trying to be by the book. But I know a lot of people will be like, okay, if I go out with my friend to a restaurant and we're drinking, we're talking, but if we talk about whatever conversation about business, they think that they can write it off as a business meal. How accurate is that?
Okay, so the definition, meals is not every time you go eat if you're a business owner. It's basically if you're having business interactions with your business partners, with business clients. Technically, if you're speaking about business, then it's a business meal. It has to be ordinary necessary. So that's the bottom line with the IRS. So, I mean, people do it all the time. The thing is, you have to have documentation. So if you get audited, you have to put who you had the meal with, what were y'all discussing, where was it the time. So you have to have all of that stuff if you want to use it as a business meal, a deduction. Yeah.
Oh no, like driving through at Chick-fil-A, like in the middle of your day, that is not a business meal. Even if you're like picking up, none of that. It's more so you're conducting business meetings with your clients or with a business partner, and y'all are actually talking about business.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
I guess my last question would be about because I know that whenever you are, I think, is it like when you make or when you have a couple of years where you actually have to pay taxes, they require you to pay quarterly taxes to avoid yourself from being what is it? You have to pay a penalty fee for not paying quarterly taxes.
Yeah, it's the estimated tax payment.
Yes.
So Yeah. So if you're expecting to pay like $1,000 or more in a tax bill, you're supposed to be paying quarterly taxes. So that's your estimated tax payments. So if you don't pay it, there's a payment fee that's gonna be connected to your next tax returns. Basically, if you're due to pay $1,000 in the next year, then you have to pay your estimated tax payments quarterly.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And you can pay it more frequently than quarterly. Like if you have a monthly payment, you want just take out payments monthly from out of your income, you can go ahead and pay it. But you just have to be by the deadline, and there's quarter deadlines for each estimated tax payment.
And the way that they classify that is basically if the year prior you have a tax bill, then basically the following year you take that amount, or they may like give you an estimated amount, and then you divide it amongst 4 payments or however many payments, and you pay on it. So that way you don't have like a big tax bill at the beginning of the following year, right?
Right. And a lot of like some people, like if they didn't have it that previous year, but you have like an influx of revenue the next year, like you're gonna be like, I know I'm gonna have a bill.
Yeah.
You should start. That's why bookkeeping and knowing your numbers is so important, because like how many times have you start doing your books and you be like, I made all of this, like where it went, you know?
Like facts.
But that's why bookkeeping is so important, because once you start getting that tax bill, you be like, I didn't even know I made all of that.
Yeah.
But if you knew your numbers and you knew everything that was coming in, then you would know that you should be expecting a higher tax bill than you had the previous year. And working with a tax advisor, start putting stuff into place where you can start learning the amount, because it's once you start hitting a certain income level, there's certain things that can be put into place and certain strategies that can be put into place, and that's a whole lot of that.
Yeah. Which is why if you are finding yourself struggling, you need to hire a tax professional.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because in the long run, like the cost of hiring someone, it'll offset and help you so much more. Like, because like you either pay them and then lower your tax bill, or you're gonna be paying a whole lot more.
A whole bunch. No.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I'm like, I would rather hire somebody to help me to do this instead of me trying to figure out, because then you're like researching, but then you're also inputting numbers. And I mean, I understand you're saying like now they have AI, but before that wasn't a thing. So.
Yeah, and AI is people don't realize it's learning. It's continually learning. So it doesn't know every single thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one more thing I wanted to talk about was the BOI. The BOI.
Yeah, the BOI has been changing so much. It's a voluntary thing right now.
Yeah.
It's not mandatory, but it takes 5 minutes to go ahead and go on that website and just put in your information. It's basically just wants people to like business owners to put that they own the business, because there's so many people who has been having these businesses and they just have it dormant and they're not doing anything with them, or they have an income that's coming into it and they're not reporting it. So it's just a way to just keep track of every business owner and all of that.
Yeah. And it's like a simple 1-2 form. So if you have a business and you haven't completed the BOI, just go ahead and do it. I mean, it's free.
Yeah.
You might look, just in case if they do decide to make mandatory.
Because the penalties, once they do, the penalties that they had announced before is pretty hefty.
Yeah, like $100 a day or something.
It's more. It was like 200 or something dollars a day. Yeah,
every day past the deadline that you file it. That is insane. But yeah. No, this was really good. This was really, really good. I think that this will be a lot of valuable insight for people that are just getting started, for people that have already gotten started but don't really know what they're doing. So I guess we could close with what is like a piece of advice that you would recommend a side hustler do right now in their business. I mean, we're at the top of the year, so you basically have a clean slate. But if they are wanting to do their business correctly this year, what's one piece of advice that you would give them to make sure that they are compliant with tax laws?
I'll give you a couple.
We'll take them all.
First, get a separate business account. So whatever your business expenses, use that either as a credit card or a debit card. Just use that specific card and money just for the business. Like if you need money for your personal or separate business, move it the correct way. Don't just go ahead and swipe your business one.
Yeah. Wait, what does moving it the right way look like?
Basically, pay it to yourself or make a check out from your business to your personal account and put it in there. Don't just go ahead and swipe. Secondly, don't just not file. If you feel as though you're gonna owe a big tax bill, or you don't worry about it. Like, file your taxes. You're not gonna get away with it. It's not going anywhere. Just do it. And it's best to do it instead of them getting in your business and all of this other stuff. My number one rule is if they don't have to be in my business, I'm not gonna don't give them a reason to be in your business. Like, audits and stuff happens randomly, but if it's something that you're doing wrong and it happens, it's gonna be worse.
Those are good. Those are really good. Really, really good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
But I want you to share, where can the people find you? Where can they inquire, reach out if they have any questions regarding their taxes, any upcoming offers that you'd like to share with the audience so that they can get your details?
Well, right now we're offering, if you file your taxes with us, if you are a business making less than $150,000, you get into a drawing to win the Ninja Creamy Machine and also a $150 grocery gift card with us. Yeah, and then if you are a business making over $150,000, then you also enter the drawing, but then we also give you a tax planning analysis just to see if you're eligible for new tax strategies to lower your tax bill and stuff. And that's worth up to $500. But you have to have filed or have your deposit secured for filing by March 1st. I do have a free tax deduction checklist. If you follow me on Instagram, Takara Broussard _ or on Facebook, Takara Broussard, it's in my bios, but if you just send me a DM, I can send it to you as well. I work with people all over the U.S. Everything is virtual. I do have a physical office now in Houston.
Nice.
Congratulations. So thank you. Yeah, so I can meet with you there, but everything could be virtual. We meet on Zoom. We have secure portals. So on social media, my name is Takara Broussard, and my Instagram is Takara Broussard _ Facebook the same.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Takara, for joining us today on the Side-HustlHER Podcast.
Okay.
I hope you found as much value in today's episode as I did. Now, if you'd like to connect with Takara and learn more about how she can help you lower your tax liabilities and reduce your financial stress, you can find her on Instagram at Takara Broussard _ or visit her website at KAJNTaxServices.com. I also have her information linked below in the show notes. And don't forget, Takara is offering an amazing Q1 tax prep special for this tax season. Thank you so much for listening to the Side-HustlHER Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who needs to hear these tips most. Until next time, keep hustling, sis. You got this.